And we hear from Diana's sister, but she and others in the family are commemorating her death, speaking candidly about their grief from 20 years ago.
She swore she'd take it to her grave. But at 60, Diana's sister can't hold back anymore. The cameras captured the moment her composure shattered, tears flooding her eyes as she whispered the words that changed everything. They didn't want you to know this, but
there's still so much more to look at in the broader terms of who was responsible for what and how did it come to this.
I can't stay silent anymore. What she reveals about that night will make your blood run cold. The phone call at 3 a.m.
These 2 hours, the presenters on every news channel were saying injured but expected to make a full recovery, and I have no idea why, but it made me so angry.
The mysterious figure Diana feared most. The cover-up that went all the way to the top. You need to hear this before this video gets taken down. The story of Princess Diana's romance with Prince Charles contains a surprising twist that many people don't know about. Before Diana ever met the future king, her older sister, Lady Sarah Spencer, had already dated him. This lesser-known chapter in royal history adds an unexpected dimension to what would become one of the most famous relationships of the 20th century. The Spencer family had deep roots in British aristocracy, having lived at Althorp estate in Northamptonshire for over 5 centuries. Sarah Spencer grew up in this grand country house, surrounded by extensive grounds and steeped in tradition. She attended Riddlesworth Hall School and later West Heath, the same boarding school her younger sister Diana would attend. From an early age, Sarah was known for her strong personality and independent streak, traits that would later catch the attention of Prince Charles. In the tight social circles of British high society, it was almost inevitable that Sarah would cross paths with the heir to the throne. The Spencer family had long-standing connections to the royals, and their worlds naturally overlapped at various social events. The actual meeting happened in 1977 at a pheasant hunt on a friend's estate. This was a quintessentially British affair, complete with tweeds, hunting dogs, and the crisp country air that Charles so enjoyed. According to reports from people who knew them at the time, Sarah's lively and outspoken nature immediately caught Charles's attention. At a point when the prince was under considerable pressure to find a suitable wife, Sarah stood out. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind or challenge him in conversation, unlike many of the women he encountered in his social circle. Their early conversations flowed easily, touching on shared interests in the arts and environmental concerns. The relationship that developed between them seemed promising at first. They went on numerous dates, and Sarah got her first real taste of what life in the royal spotlight might be like. One of their more memorable trips together was to Balmoral Castle in Scotland, the royal family's private retreat in the Highlands. There they spent time fishing, walking, and enjoying quiet moments away from public scrutiny. For Sarah, these visits offered an inside look at the traditions and expectations that came with being close to the royal family. Despite the apparent chemistry, Sarah remained true to her independent nature throughout the courtship. She never modified her straightforward manner of speaking, even when surrounded by the formality of royal life. However, this same independence that Charles initially found attractive would eventually become a source of tension. The constant media attention and the weight of royal expectations began to take their toll on Sarah, who struggled with the loss of privacy that came with dating the future king. The relationship came to an abrupt end following an interview Sarah gave to the press. In a moment of striking candor, she made comments about her personal struggles and past relationships. Most famously, she stated that she wouldn't marry Charles whether he was a dust man or the King of England. These words caused immediate controversy. The media seized on the statement, and the royal family, who valued discretion above almost everything else, were reportedly dismayed. Shortly after, Charles decided it was best to end the relationship. What happened next, however, would prove far more significant than the romance itself. Despite the breakup, Sarah maintained her connection to the royal circle. In one of history's interesting turns, she played a direct role in introducing her younger sister Diana to Prince Charles. The meeting took place not long after Sarah and Charles had ended their relationship, when Sarah invited Diana to an event where the prince would be present. Diana was only 16 at the time, still finding her way in the world. while Charles was an experienced royal figure who understood the demands of public life. Yet there was an immediate connection between them. Diana later told friends that her first impression of Charles was that he seemed sad, though her feelings would evolve considerably over time. Charles, for his part, was struck by Diana's cheerful and engaging personality. In an interview years later, he recalled thinking of her as a very happy, funny, and attractive 16-year-old. After that initial encounter, both returned to their separate lives. Diana continued her education at Althorp, while Charles focused on his royal duties. But the seed had been planted. That seemingly ordinary meeting at a family gathering would set in motion a sequence of events that would captivate the world and leave a permanent mark on the British monarchy. 3 years passed before Diana and Charles saw each other again. By then, Diana was 19 and carried herself with more confidence. Charles, meanwhile, was in a vulnerable state following a painful breakup and the death of his mentor, Lord Mountbatten. According to Diana's later recollections, she found Charles different during the second meeting, more approachable and easier to talk with. At a summer gathering, Charles unexpectedly kissed Diana, expressing sympathy for her situation. This moment marked the true beginning of their romantic relationship. When Diana spent a weekend at Balmoral with Charles, their budding romance became clear to everyone around them. For Diana, the experience was overwhelming. She wasn't accustomed to such intense media scrutiny, and the constant attention from photographers and journalists felt suffocating. Despite these pressures, she was determined to navigate the challenges that came with dating a royal. Their courtship proved difficult in practical terms. Charles's demanding schedule meant they communicated primarily by telephone, rather than spending time together in person. Some accounts suggest they only met face-to-face 13 times before Charles proposed. This limited contact, combined with pressure from family and the public, created strain in their developing relationship. Yet Diana remained committed to making things work, and there were genuine moments of tenderness and connection between them. The official engagement announcement came in early 1981, thrilling the nation and the world. The Queen and Duke of Edinburgh formally announced that their son, the Prince of Wales, would marry Lady Diana Spencer. Prince Charles had proposed just 3 weeks earlier, choosing a moment right before Diana was scheduled to travel to Australia with her mother. He later explained that he thought the trip would give her time to reflect and be certain about such a life-changing decision. Diana accepted immediately, showing no hesitation about her choice. During their engagement interview with the BBC, a moment occurred that would later take on greater significance. When asked if they were in love, Diana confidently replied that they were. Charles's response, however, was more ambiguous. He said, "Whatever in love means." This comment confused and hurt Diana at the time, hinting at deeper uncertainties that would later become painfully apparent. The wedding took place on July 29, 1981, at St. Paul's Cathedral. The preparations were spectacular, befitting what one publication called the last great state occasion of the 20th century. Diana's wedding dress, designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel, became instantly iconic. With its 25-foot train, intricate lacework, and thousands of pearls, it perfectly captured Diana's emerging style and the grandeur of the occasion. On the morning of the wedding, London's streets filled with enthusiastic crowds hoping to catch a glimpse of the royal couple. An estimated 750 million people worldwide watched as Diana arrived at the cathedral in a glass coach, escorted by her father, Earl Spencer. The ceremony blended royal tradition with personal touches, reflecting the unique nature of this particular couple. More than 2,600 guests attended, including heads of state, royalty, and celebrities from around the globe. As they exchanged vows before the Archbishop of Canterbury, Charles and Diana became one of the most watched couples in history. Through it all, Lady Sarah Spencer watched with mixed emotions. Speaking to reporters, she expressed pride in her role bringing them together, jokingly calling herself Cupid. It was a moment that connected the past to the present, acknowledging her own brief chapter in this royal story while celebrating her sister's new beginning. The fairy tale wedding marked the beginning of what many hoped would be a happy marriage, but the reality behind palace walls told a different story. As Princess Diana settled into her new role, the pressures of royal life quickly became apparent. The constant public scrutiny, rigid protocols, and isolation from her previous life took a toll on the young princess, who was still only 20 years old when she married. Lady Sarah McCorquodale, Diana's older sister, took on an important role during this period as one of Diana's ladies-in-waiting. This wasn't merely a ceremonial position. Sarah provided genuine emotional support and companionship to Diana as she navigated the complex world of royal duties. She accompanied Diana to official engagements, charity events, and state occasions, offering a familiar face and trusted presence when the demands of royal life became overwhelming. Behind closed doors, Sarah was even more valuable as a confidant and friend who understood the unique pressures Diana faced. Sarah's support extended beyond simple companionship. She became actively involved in many of Diana's charitable initiatives, helping to organize events and campaigns. Whether visiting hospitals or supporting AIDS awareness programs, Sarah demonstrated complete commitment to Diana's causes. This wasn't just about fulfilling royal obligations. It reflected a deep bond between the sisters and Sarah's dedication to helping Diana succeed in her public role. During the more difficult periods, Sarah's presence became essential. The marriage between Charles and Diana began showing signs of strain relatively early. There were growing reports of incompatibility and unhappiness within the relationship. Diana often turned to Sarah during these challenging times, finding in her sister someone who could offer both sympathy and practical advice. Sarah's own brief experience dating Charles gave her unique insight into the complexities Diana faced, making her support even more meaningful. The real fracture in the marriage, however, came from Charles's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. While rumors of their connection had existed for years, the full extent of their involvement remained hidden from public view throughout much of the 1980s. Charles and Camilla had known each other since the early 1970s, long before either of them married their respective spouses. Their friendship had always been close, perhaps too close, but the royal family's emphasis on privacy and discretion meant that most people outside their immediate circle remained unaware of the true nature of their relationship. By the mid-1980s, those close to Charles and Camilla understood that their connection had deepened into something more than friendship. Both were married at the time, Charles to Diana and Camilla to Andrew Parker Bowles, yet they continued to see each other at private gatherings and social events. Friends within their circle knew about the affair, but a combination of loyalty, social convention, and the royal family's influence kept the information from becoming public knowledge. The situation continued this way until 1986, when the affair became increasingly difficult to conceal. Charles and Camilla were seen together more frequently, and their closeness at various events began to raise questions. Still, it would take several more years before the full truth emerged in a way that would shock the nation and fundamentally alter public perception of the royal family. The breakthrough came in 1993, when a private telephone conversation between Charles and Camilla from 1989 was leaked to the press. This incident, which became known as Camillagate or Tampongate, exposed intimate details of their relationship in the most public and embarrassing way possible. The recording contained explicit romantic exchanges between Charles and Camilla, including Charles making a now infamous remark about wanting to live inside her trousers and joking about being reincarnated as a tampon. The leak created an unprecedented media storm. British tabloids published excerpts from the conversation, and the story dominated headlines for weeks. The public reaction was one of shock and disappointment. Prince Charles, who had been raised as a symbol of duty and propriety, was suddenly at the center of a scandal that revealed the very human and flawed reality behind the royal facade. His image suffered tremendously, as did public perception of the monarchy itself. In 1994, Charles attempted to address the situation directly by participating in a television interview with journalist Jonathan Dimbleby. When asked about infidelity in his marriage, Charles made a carefully worded admission. He acknowledged being unfaithful to Diana, but added a crucial qualifier, stating that the infidelity occurred only after the marriage had irretrievably broken down. While he didn't explicitly name Camilla as the other woman, everyone understood exactly whom he meant. The interview was meant to provide clarity and perhaps some redemption, but for many viewers, it only confirmed what they had suspected. Diana's response came in 1995 through her own interview on the BBC program Panorama. Speaking with remarkable candor, she addressed the situation that had dominated her marriage for years. Her most memorable line from that interview became one of the most quoted statements in royal history. When discussing her marriage difficulties, Diana said there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. The simple yet powerful statement captured the essence of her predicament and resonated deeply with the public. During the Panorama interview, Diana spoke openly about her struggles within the royal family, her feelings of betrayal, and the impact that Charles's relationship with Camilla had on their marriage. Her honesty was both refreshing and devastating. She presented herself not as a perfect princess, but as a real person dealing with genuine pain and disappointment. The interview generated enormous sympathy for Diana among the public, while further damaging Charles's reputation. People who had admired the royal family for their composure and dignity were confronted with a very different reality, one marked by deception, unhappiness, and broken promises. The royal family, accustomed to handling their private matters behind closed doors, found themselves unable to control the narrative any longer. What had once been carefully guarded secrets were now public knowledge, discussed in homes, workplaces, and media outlets around the world. The institution that had long relied on mystique and distance found itself subjected to intense scrutiny and criticism. The pressure on Charles and Diana's marriage became unsustainable. In 1992, they announced their separation after 15 years of marriage. This announcement itself was significant, as royal separations were relatively rare and carried considerable weight. The separation period was difficult for both parties, marked by continued media attention and public speculation about their private lives. The divorce was finalized in 1996, formally ending a marriage that had captured the world's imagination 15 years earlier. The terms of the divorce were negotiated carefully, with particular attention paid to arrangements for their 2 sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. Diana lost her title of Her Royal Highness, but retained the title of Princess of Wales. More importantly for Diana, she maintained a significant role in her sons' lives and continued her charitable work, which had become such an important part of her identity. Throughout all these difficulties, the Spencer sisters remained close. Sarah and her sister Jane Fellows formed a strong support network for Diana during this tumultuous period. They understood the unique pressures Diana faced and provided the kind of unconditional support that only family can offer. Their bond grew even stronger as Diana navigated the aftermath of her divorce and worked to establish a new life for herself outside the constraints of royal marriage. The sisters stood by Diana through the media scrutiny, the public discussions of her private life, and the emotional toll of watching her marriage dissolve in such a public way. This family connection would prove even more crucial in the tragic events that lay ahead, as Sarah and Jane would soon face the devastating task of supporting each other through an unimaginable loss. Charles and Diana's relationship after the divorce focused primarily on co-parenting their children. They worked to maintain some degree of civility for William and Harry's sake, attending important events together when necessary, and coordinating their time with the boys. This arrangement continued until that fateful night in Paris in August 1997, when everything changed forever. The night of August 31st, 1997, began like many others for Princess Diana and her companion Dodi Fayed. They had spent the summer relaxing on the French Riviera and in Sardinia, enjoying time away from the constant pressures of public life. Around 3 in the afternoon, they arrived in Paris and stopped briefly at Villa Windsor, a property owned by Dodi's father, Mohammed Al Fayed, before heading to the Ritz Hotel, which was also owned by the Fayed family. During their time at the hotel, Diana called her sons to check in with them, while Dodi visited a jewelry store on Place Vendôme to pick up a special gift for Diana. The couple had initially planned to dine at a popular Parisian restaurant called Chez Benoit at 9:30 in the evening, but the large crowd of photographers gathering outside the hotel forced them to reconsider. Instead, they decided to have a quieter dinner at the hotel's restaurant, though they ultimately chose to eat in their private suite for even more privacy. Diana ordered mushrooms and asparagus as a starter, while Dodi chose turbot as his main course. Neither of them realized that this would be one of their last meals together. Shortly after midnight, around 12:15, they left the hotel through the back entrance to avoid the waiting photographers. Their driver was Henri Paul, who had been called back specifically to drive them that night. Bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones sat in the front passenger seat of the Mercedes-Benz S280. The car sped through the Paris streets with photographers on motorcycles following closely behind. What began as an attempt to escape unwanted attention turned into a high-speed chase through the city center. The Mercedes was traveling well above the 50-km/h speed limit when it entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel at 23 minutes past midnight. Tragically, Henri Paul lost control of the vehicle, and it crashed into a concrete pillar with devastating force. The impact was catastrophic. The car was destroyed beyond recognition, with broken glass and twisted metal scattered across the tunnel. The sound of the crash echoed through the underground passage. Trevor Rees-Jones was injured but remained conscious, trapped in the wreckage. Princess Diana suffered severe injuries but was still alive. Dodi Fayed and Henri Paul, however, died instantly at the scene. Diana had sustained multiple serious injuries, including broken ribs, a fractured arm, and a dislocated right collarbone. Most critically, her heart had been displaced to the right side of her chest, tearing a vital vein in the pericardium. Medical personnel at the scene and later at the hospital worked desperately to save her life, even attempting internal cardiac massage. Despite their exhaustive efforts, Princess Diana died at Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital just before dawn on August 31, 1997. The official time of death was recorded as 6 in the morning. The news of her death sent shockwaves around the world. For Lady Sarah McCorquodale, the loss was both personal and devastating. Sarah, along with her sister Jane Fellows and Prince Charles, traveled to Paris to bring Diana's body back to England. It was a heartbreaking journey marked by grief and disbelief. At Diana's funeral, Sarah stood strong and delivered a moving reading that honored her sister's memory and captured the essence of Diana's compassionate nature. Her words touched millions of people watching around the world. As co-executor of Diana's will, Sarah took on the crucial responsibility of protecting her sister's legacy. She worked diligently to ensure that Diana's wishes were carried out and that her estate was managed properly. Sarah also became president of the Diana Princess of Wales Memorial Fund, which operated until 2012 and raised more than £112 million for various charitable causes. Through this work, Sarah ensured that Diana's commitment to helping others would continue long after her death. The question of where to bury Diana became a matter of significant consideration. The choice of burial location carried deep symbolic and practical importance. Charles Spencer, Diana's brother, and the 9th Earl Spencer strongly advocated for Althorp Estate as her final resting place. His reasoning was rooted in concerns about privacy and security. The outpouring of public grief following Diana's death and the intense media attention surrounding her funeral made it clear that any burial site would attract enormous interest. Charles wanted to ensure that Diana's grave would be a peaceful place where her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, could visit their mother without facing crowds of onlookers and photographers. Althorp Estate had been the Spencer family home for over 500 years. The property held special significance for Diana, as it was where she grew up and where she first met Prince Charles. The estate's extensive grounds and historical importance made it a fitting location for her final resting place. More practically, the private nature of the property meant that access could be controlled, protecting both Diana's grave and her family's ability to grieve in peace. The decision not to bury Diana at St. Mary the Virgin Church in Great Brington, where many Spencer family members were laid to rest, or at another public location, reflected the unique circumstances of her death and her status as a beloved public figure. The concern about security wasn't merely theoretical. The massive crowds that gathered in London following Diana's death demonstrated the extraordinary connection people felt to her. And there were genuine worries about maintaining order and respect at a publicly accessible gravesite. Diana was buried in a lead-lined coffin, a tradition among British royals. Lead-lined coffins serve a specific purpose beyond ceremony. They create an airtight seal that prevents moisture and other environmental factors from entering, which significantly slows the decomposition process. This type of coffin is substantially heavier than standard coffins. In Diana's case, the lead lining reportedly brought the total weight to about 1/4 of a ton, requiring additional pallbearers to manage the weight during the funeral procession. The specific location chosen for Diana's burial was a small island in the middle of an oval-shaped lake on the Althorp estate grounds. This secluded spot offered the privacy and tranquility that Charles Spencer felt was essential. The island setting created a natural barrier between Diana's grave and the outside world, making it nearly impossible for unauthorized visitors to access. During the funeral, a temporary walkway was constructed to allow mourners and dignitaries to reach the island, but this bridge was removed shortly after the ceremony to prevent future intrusions. The oval lake itself had an interesting history within the Spencer family. It was designed by landscape architect Samuel Lapidge in the 1800s, during a time when English winters were considerably colder than they are today. The lake was created specifically to provide a place for ice skating, which was a popular winter pastime for wealthy families of that era. Charles Spencer later shared this historical detail on social media, explaining how his ancestors had enjoyed skating on the frozen lake during the coldest months. The transformation of this recreational space into Diana's final resting place added layers of meaning to the location. What had once been a site of family joy and winter activities became a place of remembrance and reflection. The peaceful waters of the oval lake, surrounded by the natural beauty of the Northamptonshire countryside, created an atmosphere of serenity that seemed appropriate for honoring Diana's memory. As a tribute to Diana's life, 36 oak trees were planted along the pathway leading to the oval lake, one for each year of her life. This living memorial involved members of both the royal family and the Spencer family in its creation. King Charles, Prince William, Prince Harry, and the late Queen Mother all participated in planting these trees, along with Diana's father John Spencer and her brother Charles. The choice of oak trees was significant, as oaks are known for their strength, resilience, and longevity. As these trees mature over the decades, they serve as growing symbols of Diana's enduring impact on the world. The temple on the Althorp estate stands as a sacred space where visitors can reflect on Princess Diana's life and lasting influence on the world. Built in the 1880s by John Spencer, the 5th Earl Spencer, and Diana's great-great-grandfather, the structure originally cost just £3. It was initially intended as a quiet place for contemplation, but following Diana's death, it took on new significance as an enduring memorial to her legacy. The temple's classical architecture adds a sense of timeless grace to the Althorp landscape. As people approach this solemn monument, they encounter 2 memorial tablets bearing Diana's name and some of her most memorable quotes. One tablet displays a particularly moving statement that captures Diana's deep commitment to helping vulnerable people. The quote reads that nothing brings her more happiness than trying to help the most vulnerable members of society. It's a kind of destiny, she said, an essential part of her life. Anyone who is in distress can call on her, and she will come running no matter where they are. These heartfelt words continue to resonate as a reminder of Diana's compassionate nature and her dedication to service. The temple provides an atmosphere of peace and contemplation from the moment visitors step inside. The tranquil setting encourages reflection on Diana's remarkable life, her tireless work for those in need, and the lasting impact of her kindness and care. People visit to pray, leave flowers, or simply spend time in quiet thought, honoring Diana and the profound difference she made in countless lives. A second tablet at the temple features a powerful passage from Charles Spencer's eulogy at Diana's funeral at Westminster Abbey. His words beautifully convey the love and respect he held for his sister, describing her as a woman of unmatched beauty, depth, and uniqueness. He spoke of giving thanks for the life of a woman he was so proud to call his sister, the unique, complex, extraordinary, and irreplaceable Diana, whose beauty, both internal and external, would never be erased from memory. Charles Spencer's commitment to honoring Diana extended beyond the temple. He established a museum on the Althorp estate dedicated entirely to her life and charitable work. For several years, the museum housed an extensive collection of Diana's personal belongings, including her famous dresses, elegant tiaras, and other items from her time as a royal. Beyond the glamorous pieces, the museum also displayed more intimate artifacts, such as letters, photographs, and home videos that revealed Diana's private personality and family life. True to Diana's spirit of generosity, Charles pledged to donate a significant portion of the museum's profits to her memorial charity, ensuring her philanthropic work would continue helping people in need. Although the museum closed in 2014, during its operation, it provided visitors with a comprehensive look at Diana's life and offered a meaningful way to connect with her legacy. The exhibits honored her memory, while demonstrating how profoundly she changed the world through her compassion and dedication to important causes. During the summer months, members of the public can still visit the temple and the Althorp estate grounds to pay their respects to Diana. These visits offer people an opportunity to remember her extraordinary life and reflect on the enormous impact she had globally. One particularly moving visit occurred just before the wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton on April 29, 2011. In a touching gesture of love and remembrance, William and Catherine traveled to Althorp Estate to visit the place where Diana was buried. Walking hand in hand through the peaceful grounds, they made their way to the private island where Diana rests. They traveled across the water by boat, bringing flowers as a heartfelt tribute. For William, this visit served as a way to honor his mother and acknowledge her importance in his life, especially at such a significant moment. It allowed him to share this deeply personal part of his history with Catherine as they prepared to begin their married life together. Standing before Diana's grave, William and Catherine bowed their heads in a quiet, emotional moment of prayer and gratitude. They placed the bouquet of flowers on the grave with gentle respect, a poignant symbol of their love and remembrance. The gesture demonstrated the enduring bond between mother and son, even years after her death. The visit wasn't limited to the gravesite. William also took Catherine to the nearby arboretum, where he and his brother Harry had planted trees as young boys. Walking through this area together, surrounded by the natural beauty of the estate, William and Catherine found solace and time to reflect on Diana's love and the strong family connections that remained. The 25th anniversary of Diana's death in 2022 marked another significant moment of remembrance. Prince Harry decided to bring his wife Meghan Markle to Oval Lake at Althorp Estate for the first time. For Harry, this visit was deeply emotional, providing an opportunity to share precious memories of his mother with Meghan and to honor Diana's memory together. In his memoir published in 2023, Harry described the journey to Oval Lake in careful detail. He wrote about helping Meghan into the boat and how they made their way across the calm water. As they traveled across the lake, Harry was moved to tears, overwhelmed by memories of his mother and the significance of the moment. The journey wasn't without difficulties. Meghan took a seat in the back of the boat, which caused it to wobble considerably. Harry quickly moved to steady the vessel, but the boat became stuck in the thick mud at the bottom of the lake. Despite his efforts, he couldn't free it. At that crucial moment, Charles Spencer appeared at the water's edge and came to their assistance. He gave the boat a gentle push, freeing it from the mud and allowing Harry and Meghan to continue their peaceful journey across the lake. As they floated over the still, calm water, Harry and Meghan found comfort in each other's presence. Their love and mutual support brought them solace during this time of grief and remembrance. Harry wrote candidly about the emotional challenge of introducing Meghan to his late mother. He felt overwhelmed with gratitude and a deep sense of longing as he showed Meghan where his mother rested. The visit represented Harry's way of bringing Meghan, whom he called the girl of his dreams, to meet his mother, even though Diana was no longer physically present. In one of the most touching passages of his memoir, Harry described his happiness at being able to make this introduction, though it was tinged with undeniable sadness. The weight of his mother's absence was particularly clear during their time at the grave. Harry wrote about Meghan kneeling beside Diana's resting place with her eyes closed and her hands on the stone. In that sacred moment, Meghan sought connection with the spirit of her late mother-in-law, looking for support and strength. She found peace in the quiet surroundings and in the act of paying her respects to a woman she never had the chance to meet, but whose influence shaped the man she loved. In 2017, Althorp Estate underwent its most significant garden renovation in over 350 years. This major project was undertaken specifically to honor Diana's memory with a lasting tribute. The renovations focused primarily on the oval lake where Diana was buried, with the goal of creating a memorial that would endure for generations and appropriately celebrate her life and legacy. The renovation was planned with meticulous attention to detail. Every element was carefully considered, from the selection of native plants to the placement of memorial features. The intention was to enhance the oval lake with additions that symbolized Diana's spirit, transforming it into a peaceful space that would honor her memory far into the future. The timing of this project was particularly significant, as it coincided with the 20th anniversary of Diana's death in August 2017. The Spencer family initiated the renovation project specifically because of this important milestone. They wanted to mark the anniversary in a meaningful and lasting way that would celebrate Diana's memory appropriately. One of the most touching aspects of the renovation involved replanting rhododendrons and forget-me-nots, which were Diana's favorite flowers. The forget-me-nots held special significance and served as a poignant tribute to Diana's life of love and kindness. Diana had always loved these delicate blue flowers with their subtle fragrance. They reminded her of childhood and happier times spent with her brother Charles Spencer. Charles remembered giving Diana a pot of blue forget-me-nots as a gift when they were children, a sweet gesture that they both treasured for the rest of their lives. The act of planting these flowers at Diana's burial site represented the lasting connection between siblings and how love endures beyond death. Alongside the forget-me-nots, vibrant rhododendrons were also planted. These plants, with their lush foliage and bright colors, added life to the peaceful setting of the oval lake. Much like Diana's own vibrant spirit and love of life had brightened the world around her. The combination of these plants created a living tribute that would bloom year after year, constantly renewing the memory of Diana's presence. When the renovation project was completed, a rededication service was held to mark the occasion and pay appropriate tribute to Diana. Prince Harry, Prince William, Catherine Middleton, and their children, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, attended this ceremony. The event honored Diana's memory while celebrating the completion of work that would help preserve that memory for future generations. Lady Sarah McCorquodale's role in preserving Diana's legacy extended well beyond the physical memorials at Althorp. She remained deeply involved in her nephews' lives, providing guidance and support as they navigated their royal duties. Sarah attended both Prince William's wedding to Catherine Middleton in 2011 and Prince Harry's wedding to Meghan Markle in 2018, demonstrating her continued closeness to the royal family and her commitment to maintaining family bonds. Sarah's charitable work honored Diana's memory in practical ways. Beyond her role with the Diana Princess of Wales Memorial Fund, she remained active in her local community. On January 1, 2009, she served as High Sheriff of Lincolnshire for a year, and in 2010 she became Master of the Belvoir Hunt. These positions reflected her dedication to public service and her deep connection to her community. The decision to keep Diana's grave private and relatively inaccessible reflects deep respect for her memory and a desire to protect it from exploitation. By choosing a secluded location on an island in the peaceful oval lake, the Spencer family ensured that Diana's final resting place would remain a private sanctuary, away from the constant media attention that had followed her throughout her adult life. This choice allowed the family to grieve and remember Diana in peace, without the intrusion of photographers and curious onlookers. The memorial elements surrounding the grave, including the oak trees and the redesigned garden, enhance the sacred nature of the space. They transform it into a living tribute that reflects the enduring love felt for Diana by her family and the public. These thoughtful touches not only honor her life, but also provide a respectful way for people to connect with her spirit and remember the remarkable woman who touched so many lives with her compassion and grace.